This is the November Tempo community call, maybe the 5th or 6th we've done, which is kind of cool. I think I'm supposed to have dyed hair at this one, or maybe the last one, but I did not do that because the vote was rigged. I don't know if you want to review the previous month's community call, but basically Richie cheated to try to get me to dye my hair, so I do not honor that vote. So anyways, today we're kind of coming off some cool stuff. The ObservabilityCON session, we talked about some future stuff. In fact, all of the presenters except for Jen are here, Kunran and Mario, so we can dig deep into search or service graphs or some of the future plans we have. A lot of the people who are kind of instrumental in getting that together are here if you have questions about that. We also released 1.2, and we can kind of get into some of the details there as well. Talk about whatever, the release notes, or if you have questions about what's going on or how to enable search, or we do have a known issue and we'll review that. So there's an attendees list. Check yourself in there if you don't mind. And there's also an agenda. Feel free to add items there. And at some point, we'll just open it up and say, feel free to ask anything you'd like. There's no scripted presentation here, so this is conversational. Feel free to chat in the Slack or unmute and chat if you're feeling brave, whatever's fine. And we're here to answer your questions. Like, this is meant to be kind of like an office hours-y kind of session. Hey, Andre. Meant to be kind of an office hour session. So I meant to kind of, be casual more than formal. All right. I'm Joe, and I think we have a couple other maintainers here, Kunrad and Mario, and Daniel also, who really likes board games. At least that's the only thing I know about him. But I guess I don't know anyone else. William, you've done a couple PRs into Tempo, yeah? I think you've contributed quite a bit.
I think I did one very small PR. I started checking into an issue and then completely underestimated the complexity of that issue and realized I didn't have time to really work on it. And I just started with Shopify on observability stuff, so I just thought I'd drop by and see what's up.
Yeah, no doubt. Cool. Yeah, I remember you were talking about, you tried to do the uncompressed block size, page size, so that we could pre-allocate the buffer correctly.
Yeah, I got some stuff locally. I just didn't really have as much time as I thought I would have. And right when I started doing that, at least in Quebec, we were starting to loosen the COVID restrictions. And so I started to have a social life, which hadn't happened in quite a while.
Got in the way of your programming, huh?
Yeah.
No doubt. That would have been a hard one. I don't even know how I'd do it immediately. It would take me to deep dive the code and think about a couple pieces. But it was cool that you dug into those pieces. You had some good questions, and it was cool to see somebody else even looking at that code. I think myself, maybe Ananya and Marty, and yourself, William, are the only ones who've really line by line that piece of the code base. But cool. All right, let's get into the stuff a little bit here. ObservabilityCON, I guess we won't go back through the whole thing. But why don't we kind of connect to our various presenters here, and without doing a huge presentation or worrying about slides, just give a kind of a summary of your part of the talk. That way people can kind of get up to date on some of the stuff we announced there. Kunal, do you want to start, since you we'll go in the order we did the presentation? I'm kind of throwing you under the bus here, or put you on the spot, I suppose.
No, sure. Yeah, it's fine. So yeah, I started the presentation on during ObservabilityCON, and I presented Tempo Search, which is one of the newest features we're releasing with Tempo 1.2. So we added the ability to Tempo to search for recent traces using tags. And during the presentation, I've also done a demo, so you can also see a bit how it works there. But basically, it's possible now to search for the last 15 or 30 minutes of traces that have been ingested, and you can search on them using tags that are present somewhere in the trace in the spans. And yeah, it's available in 1.2, so you can try it out today. To try it out, you have to enable a feature toggle in Grafana, and you also have to enable a feature flag in Tempo. So there are two places there. Yeah. I'd say, if you want to see how it works, check out the presentation. The video is available on demand.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, just ask them in Slack anytime.
I'm going to put the 1.2 blog post in the in the doc. It actually has a link. So you mentioned there's like some flags you have to set. We kind of consider these experimental features still. Honestly, once we get the full backend search complete, I think we'll go ahead and drop that.
Yeah, so it's currently all marked. Yeah,
sorry,
everything is marked as experimental, which means it is stable. We use it ourselves all the time and also at scale, so it works. But we expect to see a lot of changes there. We will be adding full backend search, and we're also working on a native query language, TraceQL, or something like that. So what we have today is not the final goal. So everything will change. You'll see a lot of improvements, and we will probably also deprecate some stuff or have to break some stuff along the way.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely break some stuff along the way. I did link the blog post there under the Tempo 1.2. So go to the agenda doc, the meeting doc, and you'll see it. And if you look in there, we kind of talk about recent trace search, and there's some links that'll show you if you want to kind of arrange the flags. Another link I guess I should share. I kind of forgot that. I think I did this. Somebody did this. If I didn't do it, somebody did, I guess. But we also have a Docker Compose that example, and it kind of sets all the flags as well in Grafana as well as in. I do this, Gunnar? Who did this?
I made it in our first PR adding search.
Okay, I had nothing to do with this. I have no idea why. That's bad. Okay,
it's from way back at the hackathon. It's one of the
Okay.
first examples, I think.
Okay.
But it shows the Grafana config and the Tempo config, so it's a good example. You can just spin it up and try it out.
All right, that's kind of embarrassing. Yeah, I have done zero with this demo example. I don't know why I thought I did. Yes, it's all you and Ananya and Marty, it looks like, kind of poking around here. Awesome. But that's it.
You
Docker
also
Compose.
helped.
What's that?
You also helped.
Thanks, man. Docker Compose, of course, is a great way to just super fast get a couple services up and get an example going. So hopefully, between the docs and that Compose example, if you want to fool with this, you'll have the ability to. And yeah, kind of give us some feedback. We're marking it experimental for a number of reasons. One is so we can be a little flexible for the next couple months, while we get full backend search together. So if you do spend some time with it, if you do experiment with it, please give us feedback to help us improve and make it better. Things are, as long as it's experimental, we have a lot of flexibility. So this is the time basically to get some feedback in and help us make it what you need for search. And yeah, we're kind of actively building the full backend search now, basically. Cool. Mario, can you give us a service graph thing, just kind of a short rundown of our work there and kind of future work and stuff?
Yeah, so during our session, I went a bit over service graphs, which is a feature we've been working on. It currently resides on the agent, and essentially is a visual representation of distributed systems and all its services and how they relate to each other. In essence, what we do is we derive metadata from the traces as we collect them, and we build metrics with which we construct a graph. So with it, you can infer the topology of the distributed system, get a high-level overview of the health of all the services, and kind of see a historic view of the topology and the health of the system as it has evolved over the time. Yeah, it's currently on working development. We're kind of polishing a bit the visualization mainly. Recently, we introduced some performance improvements, which have noticeable gains on reducing CPU usage and memory usage, which was very cool.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, it's hidden between two feature flags, kind of. One in Grafana, you have to enable a feature toggle called Tempo Service Graph. And then to run it, to kind of generate this data that composes the service graphs, you have to enable the feature in the agent, which is where all the processing happens.
Do we have good docs on that?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if they have been released.
There's a PR
yet,
for
but
that.
they're
Okay.
by the time this is published, they will be.
Okay. Are we turning that on in cloud service graphs? Grafana Cloud?
Oh.
Maybe. Like the feature flag. Like so
That could be my question.
It's a good question. I have the same question apparently. I don't know. Okay, we should turn that on. If we're going to release it to agent, let's turn on Grafana Cloud. Let's work with let's work with the team on that. Okay, so let's see. Turn. I think we need a little bit of work to do on the front end. Our primary front end engineer, Grafana engineer, is on paternity leave, so it might take us a little bit to get all the changes we want in before we release it, but we will get that together in Grafana Cloud. Mario, and let's just talk offline and figure out the best way to roll that out. Which also kind of to take a step back to search, we are rolling that out on Grafana Cloud as well. And search will roll out with 8.3. So I think 8.3 is released now. Is that correct? And we'll roll out to Grafana Cloud over the coming weeks?
No, I think 8.3. I think they will make a beta soon of it, but it's not released yet. I think they're still at 8.2.3 right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not super familiar with the release schedule, but I think it's like aimed somewhere for December.
Oh, okay. That's farther out than I thought. Okay. But as 8.3 rolls out, search will be available in Grafana Cloud, and so you'll be able to kind of mess with this recent trace search stuff we've been working on.
Yeah, another possibility is you can also ask to use a more recent version of Grafana in Grafana Cloud. So you can, I think, ask to upgrade it to 8.3 to like a pre-release version.
That's true. So if anyone, on this call wants to experiment with it now, keep in mind you're upgrading to a beta basically. But if that's acceptable to you, kind of you and your org, or you have a personal account and you want to fool with it, feel free to reach out. I think this is a small enough group. I don't mind flipping a couple feature flags to make sure to get you guys kind of experimenting with it earlier. Cool. To the service graph news, that work is done in the agent right now. So the agent generates these metrics that it then pushes up to Grafana Cloud, and then we build our service graphs off those metrics. We do have some also future work there. I don't know if Mario, what you want to talk about a little bit about that, kind of what we intend to do with service graphs in the future.
Right. Yeah. Of course. So as you just said, the processing now happens on the agent, and this has a couple of, well, let's say, issues, which is the setup is not as easy as it would be if it happened on the backend. So what we want to do is move this processing to Tempo, well, the backend in general, and make this feature an integration into Grafana Cloud. So you don't have to configure the agent, the Prometheus backend, Grafana, Tempo, all of that. It just kind of automatically happens on our end in Grafana Cloud. And this will be accompanied with other sorry. Other features that we have in the agent, such as spam metrics, which is an auto processor that generates metrics. Again, derives metadata from the ingested spams. Yeah, and other feature work we might decide to move.
Yeah. I think also pretty cool is all this work is going into open source Tempo. So this will just be PR's to open source Tempo. Yep. So if you're using that, it'll all be available for you. And then we're gonna, roll that out to Grafana Cloud. So you just kind of start magically getting these service graphs and span metrics and some of these other kind of data points, which I hopefully will be, a nice addition to our cloud offering. Cool. Anything else from ObservabilityCon worth discussing?
You can talk about Jet, or is that for another call?
I don't know. Jet, sure, Jet is our enterprise Tempo. So if anyone represents just like a massive bank here and you want to spend millions of dollars on enterprise Tempo, then feel free to reach out. I don't think that's really who we are here at this call, but if it is, we have an enterprise version of Tempo with support and some other nice features like federated querying, basically. So you can push to a bunch of small tempos and query across. So yeah, I don't think that's what this call is about, but if any of you all do have that need, we have the product for you. I think I want to talk about the performance though, because that was kind of a cool story for 1.2. At least I personally have been like somewhat obsessed with it. We were kind of in the middle. I'm going to put this graph here because I'm not a graphic person or graphic designer person. I spent way too long making this graph basically. So this was kind of our performance across the life cycle of 1.2. It started off with 1.1, and that's the number of spans we can process divided by CPU. So it's like a measure of performance. And 1.1, we had this baseline level. As we were building search, it all tanked because we're adding features, we're doing way more work. We're writing inefficient code just to get a feature in, and then kind of improving on the other side. And then kind of towards the very end, things really wrapped up and came together. And 1.2 with search on is more performant than 1.1, which I think is amazing because we're actually doing some double work. And we're doing that on purpose. We're kind of like doubling up our writes a little bit to create two different formats. One's the old trace by ID format, and the other's this new searchable format. And it's kind of giving us this ability to experiment with a searchable format while keeping the old code paths stable. And then 1.2 with search off is like double basically the efficiency of 1.1, which is amazing to me. Because I thought 1.1 was actually pretty good, but apparently we had a lot of room to improve. But anyways, search, I think, as we improve search, I think, I'm not going to say it's going to be in 1.3 because we might choose to cut 1.3 earlier just to get some bug fixes and smaller features in, and it might end up in 1.4. But in one of the next couple releases, we'll definitely have full backend search. We're going to kind of consolidate some of these paths and some of these formats, and we should see really good performance, both the search and with the new search, and the old trace by ID kind of lookup search. I also think our latencies have gotten really good as well. When we at 1.1, I think it was like, or 1.0, our P50 was like 2.5 seconds, which is slow. That's noticeable. You like hit a query and then you're watching for 2.5 seconds and it comes back. And our P50s now are like 700 or 800 milliseconds, which I think is great to find a trace in 1.2 billion 1.2 billion traces in our backend. So I think I'm quite proud of the performance, both in ingestion as well as our query performance. I think it's a great trace by ID engine now. Cool. So that's roughly ObservabilityCon. If anybody had any questions with that, we can kind of address that, or we kind of maybe talk through 1.2 a little bit, although it's roughly similar kind of ground, I suppose. Ooh, Andre said something here. I should probably read that. Yeah, I told you all you could chat in here. I like the idea of faster, smaller release cycle. It makes it easier to keep up to date and find bugs, smaller subset of changes. Yeah, that's fair. And I think that's kind of some of what the internal team has voiced as well. It adds a little bit of overhead to cut a release, but it's not terrible. We make a blog post and we do some release notes, and it's like half automated, basically. And it's half manual. So maybe we could like tighten up what we can tighten up, and then kind of improve the release cycle. I think we're roughly every 2 months, although this 1.2 to 1, I'm sorry, 1.1 to 1.2 is more like 2.5 months or so than 2 months. So if we did cut it down, it'd probably be about once a month. Is probably what we'd have to get our release cycle down to, or once every 5 to 6 weeks maybe would be a goal. Let's chat about that as a team and see what we think. It's also kind of a weird period of the year because you're going into kind of holidays. Makes it a little bit harder to get everybody coordinated and cut a release since everybody's out basically. But we'll figure that out. And thanks for the feedback, Andre. We'll see if that's in the cards, the tighter release schedule. Cool. 1.2. We got the blog post there, and it covers a lot of what we talked about. The one thing maybe that's worth adding is this kind of new operational mode, which is a scalable like single binary. So we have always deployed it as 4 separate components that are all independently scalable. My bad, 5 separate components. I should know that. 5 separate components that are all independently scalable. And that gives you a lot of like freedom and flexibility to use your resources as you want, as well as better bin packing, as well as really tight failure domains. If a query panics, then query panics, and all of your ingestion and write path is fine. So we've introduced this new method of deploying that loses some of that, but is more operationally simple. It's kind of an in-between option, and basically it's the ability to scale a single binary, a single like process horizontally. And the single process has all those pieces in it: the query front end, the querier, the distributor, and the ingester and compactor. So all 5 pieces are in one process. And you can just say, I want 6 of these or 2 of these, or scale up and down as makes sense for your load, basically. There's a link in the blog post if you go check that out. There's a link there, and the link kind of brings you to some of the docs and Docker Compose also, of course, because that's how we communicate config. In fact, I'll put the Docker Compose in here directly. This is, let's see, search Docker Compose, scalable. And another just kind of good example on how to kind of configure this. And this might be like a good mix for you and like your needs. Again, if you're doing like a multi-million spans per second, enormous production cluster, my recommendation would be to stick with the fully distributed mode. But if you're somewhere in between, this might make sense, and this might be a good stepping stone to get to the more complex operational mode. It's Nanya. What's up, bud?
Hey everyone. Hey Joe.
Hey, guy. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at y'all. How's it going?
Doing well. Just going over like ObservabilityCON basically in 1.2.
Cool.
Anything you want to add to any announcements? Any big changes from you?
Did we cover the search stability improvements already? I think that would be like the big one.
We did that. Sorry, man.
No, the upcoming ones, you mean?
What's that?
Yeah, we only talked about what's in 1.2, but not what's in progress right now.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good call. Or one thing we should add before we move on to that, but that's kind of like plans for 1.3, tempo 1.3. Hey, Mario. Take care, bud. One issue, there's a known issue in 1.2. It's linked in the doc. Only one person we know has seen this, and we've not seen it, and we're running it in I mean, we're running 1.2 in cloud right now, which has however many tenants with all kinds of different workloads. So basically, and then we're also running in our operational cluster, which is a larger total volume, but is a single tenant with a kind of set workload. And we're not seeing this issue. So we don't know why this is happening, but we will release a 1.2.1 hopefully soon that has at least a patch to get past it, if not like a root cause kind of fix. Marty is on that, and that's kind of what I was hoping on this call, so he could give us an update, but no big deal. If you do see this, please let us know, because then if you can share some information, it might help us track it down. Like I said, we have an enormous different ranges of trace sizes and attribute types, and I really just, I don't know, Zach basically stumbled across the magic combination that's creating this issue, and nobody else can seem to do it. So we'll at least get it patched up for 1.2. And if you do see it, yeah, please share any information you have. It would help us get it fixed up.
There's one more bug. The bug fix was just merged today. It's the Joe was like, we have more bugs. But yeah, it was the incorrect initialization of max bytes per trace limit. And instead of setting that to the max search bytes per trace, I have set it to max bytes per trace. So the bug fix was just merged, but if you've upgraded to 1.2 already, you might see some error logs in the ingester that say trace too large because the limit dropped from, I think, a couple of MB to a couple of KB. So just watch out for that.
Yeah, good call. Let's make sure we cherry pick that into 1.2.1 as well. I didn't realize. I guess I kind of have been off today, so I didn't quite catch that PR. Good call. But let's get both of those in 1.2.1, and we'll release that, and that way we can get a little stability or a more stable release there for the people. Cool. Good catch, by the way. Let's see, 1.3. What we should do here is share our milestones. So we've been trying to use milestones, and I think we've done a pretty good job as a way to kind of communicate what we're working on now, what we consider priorities, what we want in the next release. So here's the current 1.3 milestone. Dang it. Thanks, bud. There's not a ton in here now, and honestly, what we need to make a backend search issue and put it in here and kind of do the same thing we did with that ingester search readiness. I'll make a note for myself to do that. Backend search issue, and it'll kind of be like a meta issue with like, you know, these are the 5 or 10 things we want to get done before we release full backend search in 1.3. Like I said, that one might slip depending on our desire to just cut a 1.3 early and get a couple bug fixes in, maybe a feature or two, or we might just hold 1.3 a little bit longer and make sure we get that right. I'm not going to commit to either way right now, but that is kind of the focus of the team, is getting this full backend search together over the next quarter is kind of our internal goal. But other things that are worth mentioning, this unhealthy compactors that do not leave ring. This is another one we just don't see, but has a fair amount of traction from a few people. If anyone has information to help us reproduce, it would be great to hear that. I've collected a lot of information in this issue thread, and there's just still no like smoking gun, like obvious reason. Additionally, this is something else we don't see. We roll our compactors probably multiple times a week. We have 7 or 8 environments. We're constantly deploying weekly to every single one, and our ops environment in particular has a lot of churn, and this just doesn't happen, which is just really weird that we're struggling to pin it down. So what we're going to do at least is move the compactors to a new ring in Cortex, and the new ring will allow automatically dropping an unhealthy compactor, whereas the current ring does not. So this will require some internal code changes, and it has this new feature, and it's just like, if a compactor's been unhealthy for 5 minutes, just everybody forget that it exists forever. And it will at least kind of band-aid this so that the people who are seeing it will have this 5-minute period where there'll be this compactor that's unhealthy, and then it'll go away. right now you have to kind of manually go and forget it, which is a little frustrating, I think, operationally. But we will get that fixed up, and then at least you'll have this like auto forget path, and it'll ease your operations, even if we can't figure out exactly why it's happening in some environments and not ours. Yeah, honestly, is that the only thing that's listed in here that's worth discussing? There's some smaller things here. We should probably put more in 1.3, guys. What do y'all say? We should definitely get the backend
That's it.
search one. What's that?
That's gonna be 1.3. That's it. That one fix.
That's right. Cut it now. Send it. It's good. Search, we're going to try to get in 1.3. I don't want to commit the service graph, server-side metrics stuff. I think we need to look a little bit more at what that timeline might look like. For me, the bigger emphasis is search. But Kunrad, or Mario's gone. Kunrad, do you want to weigh in on service graphs? And maybe like if we were going to think about 1.4 for that, or if 1.3 is an option?
Yeah, we're currently starting with the design of this. So we're thinking about how we can integrate this within Tempo, in a smart way that doesn't, destabilize the other components. So we're still at the design phase, and depending on which design we pick, some parts might end up in 1.3 or later. Yeah, it's a bit unclear at the moment, to be honest. But
yeah,
I
that's
think
fair.
we'll have an update in next community call probably.
Yeah, we're still
Okay,
still in design phase. It's hard to commit to 1.3. That's a good point. Where search is, I wouldn't say heavily designed, but at least the path forward is clear with search. Whereas with service graphs, I think there's still a lot of open questions. So we'll definitely not put an issue in here for that. Perhaps parts of it, perhaps at least there'll be a design doc within the next month or so for sure. But let's do an update at the next community call. I think that's a good promise to make, at least to get more information then.
But the goal would be to be able to generate server-side metrics like this quarter. So it could be, I guess, in 2 releases then, hopefully.
Okay. Cool. Well, I think I've roughly covered everything I thought we should. Does anybody else have any ideas of maybe other content, other things that are worth talking about, or questions about the product, or plans, or really anything you want? What my favorite color is, how many dogs live in this house.
How many dogs live in this house?
0. I have no dogs.
What's your favorite color?
Green is what I would have answered when I was 8. Now I guess green still. I don't know. It's not really something I think about much.
So that's how you're gonna dye your hair?
I don't know. We'll have to consult Richie. I'm not sure. When's St. Patrick's Day? Maybe I could do it then. That's in the spring sometime, right? That's pretty far off. Then if I have green hair, yeah.
I was just gonna say, Tempo search is in Grafana Cloud now, so do check. Did we mention that already? Okay.
It's not in Grafana Cloud though.
It's not in Grafana.
It's kind of in Grafana Cloud.
Yeah, so search will be in Grafana. Will be rolling out with Grafana 8.3, which I think is like somewhere in December. But we are running search in the Tempo clusters. So if you know which endpoints to hit, you can already use search, or you can use your own Grafana instance in that case. Yeah. So I guess kind of.
Got it.
There is an open offer, certainly to anybody on this call, right? If you do want it enabled, we can turn that on in your instance. We don't want to I don't want to broadcast that like in a giant blog post that everybody sees, or post it publicly, because I don't want a billion requests to turn on a feature flag that is kind of experimental. But certainly anyone who's this tight with Tempo and is working with the product and wants to have some fun with it, we'd be glad to flip that flag. We've already done it for a few of our tighter or closer knit customers, I guess.
Information you to enable it.
If you give me your just URL, it'll be like something.grafana.net. If you can give that to me, I can get that set up for you.
Yeah. GEM.net.
Like that, like in chat. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. GAN, my bad. All right, I will set this up later today. If you're on our public Slack, feel free to just DM me if you don't see this in a day or so, and I will, and I'll make sure it gets together. But I'm going to set it up this afternoon, and then, yeah. So if you don't see it, just ping me and say, Joe, you promised me you'd do this. Where are you, bud? And I'll get it together.
Great. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, it's been a fun community call. Come back next month and we'll be looking at, probably a little bit more detail around 1.3 and what we're trying to release in that. Search should have moved some as well. And we'll have maybe some more full backend search may have moved some, and we'll maybe have some more updates on that as well as the 8.3 release of Grafana. Cool. All right. You all take care, and I will see you in about a month.
See you.
See you.
Cheers.